What is the creepiest thing you've seen in the woods, or in the mountains, or in deserts, or caves, or in a small towns, or in remote or rural areas, or while on large bodies of water, or while on a aircraft or a nautical vessel? My friend and I were chilling in the woods one day back in high school and see a dog walking by, later followed by this kid. He looked troubled, so we asked if he needed help. He obliged, telling us he was dog sitting for his friend and the dog got loose. So we spent a good hour following this dog and kid around, going deeper and deeper into the woods. Eventually I finally got the dog to come to me, but it wasn't wearing a collar, so I wasn't able to get a hold. My friend and I look away for just few seconds to discuss strategy, and when we turned back around, the boy and the dog are both gone. It was like they completely vanished. Keep in mind it was autumn, so any footsteps could be heard from quite afar, but it was just silent, not a single trace of them anywhere. Still don't really know what happened. Maybe they ran away real quick, who knows. Was definitely enough to creep us out though. There's a story behind this. Boy and dog lost each other in woods and both died, but now reunited with your help. Fear freed of their bond to the land and now up in heaven. Almost seems like a quest. This is probably less scary than a lot of the other posts, but I was pretty sure I was going to be the nameless victim at the start of a horror movie to show how dangerous the monster is. Basically, my dad and I were walking through the woods when we came across a young moose leg lying on the ground. It looked like it had been violently torn off with no sign of the rest of the moose anywhere. It was fresh with blood still on the wound, probably no more than a couple hours old. My dad is a pretty skilled hunter, so he handed me his axe that he was carrying and told me to watch for wolves while he started looking for tracks. After a little bit he came back saying that's weird. Normally if it was wolves you'd be able to find paw prints, but I can't see any. Also no bear prints, so I have no idea what killed this, and so I'm like, you didn't find any tracks at all? And his very reassuring response was, well, I did find what appears to be the mama moose tracks headed this way, showing me the tracks. You can see how her stride is a lot longer here. Whatever killed her baby, she didn't want to fight it, she just took off running. He then pulls out his bear spray and holds it at the ready as we kept walking deeper into the woods with the unnamed non-track leaving predator armed with bear spray and an axe. When a freaking moose flees the scene, you better run fast. I was mountain biking in the woods and I came across an East Asian looking man in a perfectly fitted suit and a briefcase, just casually walking through the woods. Are you a Grand Theft Auto NPC? I get the odd feeling that he was on his way to commit suicide. I'd like to think he was out enjoying the view, but the attire he had on, I feel like it doesn't make much sense. Maybe I'm overthinking. Not sure if this is the kind of story you're looking for, but it's a fun one to tell, so here you go. I used to work in low-income home weatherization. Basically giving free power away to help lower electricity and gas bills and make the home more comfortable to people who really needed it, installing doors and insulation and so forth. One step in qualifying a home is testing combustion appliances to make sure they are not emitting carbon monoxide into the living space, because if they are and we seal up the house, we could kill the whole family. During a pre-inspection of a home on the outskirts of the city, I asked to see the owner's water heater. He tells me that it's in the basement, which is fairly normal, and I tell him I have to inspect it before work can start. So, he goes into the kitchen and starts moving the refrigerator. Turns out the entry into the basement is underneath carpeting beneath the fridge. I should note that I went and did thousands of homes over the years, and had never seen such a thing. But, whatever, needs to be done regardless, and so I pull out my flashlight and shine it down the stairs to check out the layout, but really to look for black widow spiders, because frick black widows. At this point I notice a dead cat, mostly down to a skeleton. Not my favorite sight, but really common in crawl spaces and basements. I take a few steps down the stairs and continue my spider check, and notice another couple of small animal skeletons. At this point I start to worry about gas, or poisons, or something equally dangerous, and start looking closer. There are animal skeletons everywhere, at least 10 on a cursory look. Some of them are so degraded I can't determine what they used to be. I also happen to notice that this guy is waiting at the entrance a little too quietly, with his hand on the door. Something clicks in my brain and I get this immense sense of danger. I'm about 4 steps from the door being clear to close. I have no partner on the job with me. There's death all around me. and I realized just how hidden the entrance to the basement really was. I noped the frick out, told the guy I needed extra tools and would be back, and marked the job as non-feasible for health and safety as I was driving away. I have no idea if I was actually in any danger. It could have been completely innocent, but I still remember the adrenaline rush and sense of doom, and sometimes you just don't take chances. Also edit, I'm getting asked frequently if I reported this guy to the police, and there's a lot of concern about the dead animals. I did not file a formal report, mainly because nothing I saw was entirely out of the ordinary. Crawl spaces and basements have venting at the base of the house, and it's really common for animals to squeeze in and then not be able to get back out. If you have space under your house, there's a decent chance something has died down there. You get used to it when your job takes you down there frequently. Now, this was an extreme case and clearly everything put together raised concern enough for me to get the frick out. But the sad fact of working with low-income families is that you see how lousy their lives can be. You learn not to do anything to make their lives any harder, and I took a lot of pride from the fact that my job made their lives just a bit better. I didn't think that my being scared for a minute was enough to involve the police, you know? I'd been at football training with a few of my cousins when I was about 10 years old. We decided to take a walk before our parents picked us up, so we went along the canal towpath. My cousin looked down in the canal and saw a really nice jacket floating along, and being a weird scavenger person decided to reach in to fish it out. Well, the jacket turned over, and so did the man wearing it. He also had no face left. Not gonna lie, that was rough. I was on a camping trip with some friends of mine and we found like 7 or 8 chipmunks and squirrels all in a pile, but they were all dead without arms or legs. My girlfriend and I were hiking along some abandoned railroad tracks and we get to a small bridge going over a little creek. I'm about to go explore under the bridge when she points something out. I look over and in the woods across from us I see a guy. I'm like whatever and keep headed down to the creek area, and then the guy stands up and he's naked. We immediately backtrack pretty quickly to get away from there, and once we're like 1 minute down the trail I look back and this naked dude is just standing in the middle of the trail watching us walk away. I cannot adequately explain how much this bothers me while also giving me about 100 different questions. Do you think he would have advanced on you if you hadn't moved? Did he look malicious or just plain insane? Man, good thing there were 2 of you. Naked people out in the middle of the woods probably don't give a frick about much. Just the fact that he followed us up to the trail as we were leaving made me think he might have advanced on us if we were closer. It was all around just bizarre. He mostly looked crazy, had really disheveled hair and a large messy beard which just really brought the whole look together. Found a deer with its hind end ate up. Few feet away was a coyote with the hind end ate up. Then another few feet away a fox with its hind end ate up. Nothing else was there. No bullet holes or signs of an arrow or anything else. Couldn't find any tracks from other people or animal. It was pretty creepy. Found in the hills of WV. When I was about 7 or 8, my parents sent me to a local summer camp that they would pick me up from in the afternoons. I never really liked it because the kids were mean. Everything was either broken or not clean, and the counselors obviously didn't care. I remember the girls' changing room had a door that led out to the woods, but the doorknob was gone, so it was unlocked all the time and you could see into it. This was primarily where the girls changed into their bathing suits, and there was usually someone blocking the view while we changed so the boys couldn't look in. Well, one day I'm changing alone and someone wasn't blocking the door. I look over and see an eye peeping in through the hole watching me change. I pull the rest of my clothes back on quickly and run out to tell my twin brother. I tell my dad that I don't want to go back to that camp anymore, and he begrudgingly takes us out of the camp pretty soon after because he knew how much we hated it. Years later, the camp has been closed down for many years and I'm asking my dad about it. He gets really grim and tells me it shut down because a 13-year-old boy had raped 7-year-old girl in the woods right behind the girls' bathroom a few weeks after I had told him about someone watching me change. This was quite a few years ago now. But me and my friend had this really cool spot to hang out, in the woods. You had to walk in the middle of a creek for a kilometer and duck through sharp bushes and thistles. The hike was well rewarding though. The spot was about half an acre. It was pure green grass on an incline with beautiful clear water ponds everywhere. There was tons of wildlife and the butterflies lived there, so there was always tons of butterflies. So the story begins on the way to this place. My friend Levi and I were walking along the river on the way to the spot. It was in the middle of a valley and nobody else ever went down there. Suddenly Levi stopped moving and ducked into a bush. I did the same because I thought there must have been a large animal somewhere. I saw him staring up the hill and so I looked up too. There was 2 people standing at the top of the hill heaving back and forth a lifeless body. We watched as they threw the lifeless corpse down the hill as it bounced off the trees and eventually got stuck on a tree at the bottom. Then they took off. Me and him were terrified and I was shaking so badly I couldn't speak. So we decided to verify it was a real body. Levi got about 4 feet away before screaming, "It has nostrils. It's real. Run." So of course we take off running. And I glanced back to see the 2 people run back to the top of the hill. Me and him ran 2 kilometers through thick brush and trees to get away from them. The next day we were with his parents driving to town. And we saw like 10 fire trucks at the school closest to the forest. Terrified we told his parents, bawling our eyes out worried that we were going to get murdered. His mom started laughing at us and said, "They are training for search and rescue. That was a dummy that the fireman had to find." I never slept as good as I did that night. This took place in the Australian bush around 10/11 at night. I was 17, leading a staggered column of about 60 cadets to our detachment campsite. Due to light discipline rules, only myself at the very front of the group and the other flight commander at the rear had torches on. This was so that any vehicles coming along the trail could see us and so that most of the cadets could maintain their night vision. We were camouflaged up and thus difficult to see at night. As we walked along I periodically looked to my sides and kept seeing what looked like dewdrops on the ground. Almost like tiny blue gems glinting in my torchlight either side of the road. I had to maintain my position in the formation, so I couldn't get a good look at what they were. However, after a while we stopped for a very brief break, and I took the opportunity to have a closer look. Walking over to the side of the trail I spotted a small cluster of the diamonds and focused my head torch on them. Rather than seeing diamonds or dewdrops or anything remotely pleasant, I instead saw a group of about 5 large spiders just crouching in the leaf litter and staring at me. They looked like huntsmen which are about the size of an adult's hand. Sweeping my head around, I realized there were thousands of the things, all over the ground, some on the trunks of trees, and everywhere around me, glaring at the light affixed to my head. I had a very brisk walk back to the formation and attempted to play it cool while screaming in my head. Being a massive arachnophobe, I have no freaking clue how I managed to set up a tent and spend the next week in that cursed forest.